Hello and welcome back to HardReset.Info. In this video, I will show you how to extend battery life on Nothing Phone 3. Let's begin. And we can start with the thing that eats the most battery, your screen. We can optimize its usage to improve our battery life overall. In order to do that, we can head into settings, scroll down a little and then go into display. Here we have few options that I would advise you to turn on or change. We can begin with brightness levels. It's pretty obvious that the more brighter your phone is, the more battery it will require to keep out on that brightness levels. So generally speaking, if you want to save a little bit of battery, I would advise you to just lower the brightness. Because of that, I would also advise you to disable adaptive brightness, because usually it tends up to increase the brightness instead of decreasing it, and having a lack of control over that isn't very good, to be honest. Going down, we have screen timeout. It's self-explanatory. After 5 minutes of inactivity, our phone will automatically lock its screen, which is nice. But 5 minutes is a lot. Let's say I would just want to click something and then I would leave my phone on the desk. It would take full 5 minutes for the phone to turn itself off. So obviously we want to lower the value to something like 2 minutes, 1 minute or even 30 seconds. Though this might be a little bit annoying, so enabling screen attention is pretty good, so your phone won't turn itself off while you have it in your hands. Going down, we have dark theme. Dark theme is something not very obvious and many people skip that, because many people don't know how OLED screens work. The OLED display works in a very basic way. Basically, the rule is the more brighter the pixel, the more battery it requires to display it. It's pretty simple, right? So, if we would go and simply enable our dark theme, we now see that most of our pixels are not bright, they are dark. So, naturally, they will use least battery than they would before, which is incredible, to be honest. And we can scroll down to see that, to be honest, we don't really have much more. I would only advise you to go into dynamic refresh rate, which is pretty cool. Like, it will dynamically switch the refresh rate according to content to optimize battery life. Basically, if you are scrolling fast, then the refresh rate will increase. You can also set it to high, which is nice. I didn't even know you could just do that. It's pretty cool. But for obvious reasons, and even the phone states that we can set it to standard for a little bit of slower refresh rate, but with a better battery life instead. So I think in the context of this tutorial, that's an amazing trade-off. So of course we can now go back, and technically we are okay now, but there are still more things to change. If we would scroll down, we have looking for the settings, and we can go using that to always on display. Or alternatively, we can go there by going into lock screen, which is right here, and scrolling all the way down. As you can see, currently it is set to always, so it will always show basic info on lock screen, and as you can see, this means increased battery usage. So we can click on that, and we want to make sure that this is disabled, because if it's enabled, then it will waste more battery. It's also pretty self-explanatory, even as a schedule option, and especially if you have it set to always. So I would advise you to simply disable it. And the same things can be said about glyph interface. Glyph interface is a pretty cool feature. It's very nothing related. I've never seen it on other phones, and it's pretty cool, but it also wastes a lot of battery. It means that your phone basically has LEDs, and those LEDs also waste battery, even though there aren't too much of them, and the pixel density is pretty okay, then still this will waste your battery. So I would advise you to simply disable them, or if you really want to leave them on, just lower their brightness value. They'll still be usable, but at least they won't require as much energy. And speaking of energy, we can disable glyph toys. Even though, of course, the spin the bottle is pretty funny, and you know, we can spin the bottle if we press it. Oh my god, if it rolls to the left, you have to subscribe. On the right, like. Oh my god, I guess you have to like now. It's pretty cool, but it does waste battery, so let's also get rid of that by simply disabling glyph toys. And also we can disable volume indicator. I'm not sure if it's enabled by default, but whenever we increase our volume, the LEDs flash, so we want to disable that flash to save every single bit of battery we possibly can. And I think that this is almost it. We can always go to sound and vibration and make sure that any kind of haptic vibrations are also turned off. So we have our charging sounds and vibration, we can delete those. But I don't actually see the vibration. Okay, here is the vibration. And as you can see, we do have few vibrations, so let's disable the touch feedback. Or alternatively, you can lower its intensity if you want to. I will just disable it completely. And you can also delete notification vibration. Vibrate full calls is pretty okay, since you're not in a place where someone calls you, I think. I hope so. So this won't really waste the battery. The touch feedback is probably the one that's using its most, at least when we are talking about vibration-wise. So about outside things, I think that's about it. But there's still more. For example, applications. Applications tend to run in the background, and mostly you don't even notice that. Of course, that's not good. So what you want to do then? Well, we can simply begin with going into the settings and heading into notifications, but our battery. Here we can scroll down a little, and we see that in order to see our battery usage, we want to go into probably a section called battery usage. And here we have a nice every single application and how much time we actually used it, how much time it was running in the background, and how many percentage of the battery it ate. So we can see that the ChatGPT actually used quite a lot, even though we only used it for 15 minutes. The Google Play Store used also at 10% of our battery, but this is mostly because we have used quite a lot of it, but it was running in the background, so it's worth noting. And of course the Nothing Launcher, which is a base application launcher, like you cannot really turn it off, or wait, we can, okay. I'm actually surprised this works, but I guess we can disallow background usage from the system application. And we didn't even get an error. That's interesting. I don't think you should do that. But I guess if it works, then it works. It will save your battery, I guess. Well, yeah. Like the basic thing is to simply check your applications. If you have some sort of application that you're not like even using and it still wastes your battery, you probably want to head into your apps, see your apps, and then you can, for example, let's say it was Clash of the Clans. Let's go and say this was the application that was wasting the most of my battery. We can go with app battery usage, and we can simply disallow the background usage, just like we did before, so it won't no longer run in the background. And if somehow, and also manage app if unused. I'm sorry, I didn't talk about it. It's really nice feature to have, since then it will basically, after few, I'm not actually sure after how much time, but after some time of not using the application, you will automatically archive the application, so it won't really work, but its files will still stay on your disk. And I think that's all for this video. If you found it useful, remember to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.